Good morning, fans. It's me. It's me. It's the G.O.C. coming to you live to tape, 25 feet below the surface of the earth, here at the bunker of Chaos Corner. Fans, we have a special episode of the show this morning here on St. Patrick's Day. A kiss the Blarney Stone. Everybody's Irish today. It's the weekend, and it's going to be one heck of a weekend here in the tri-state New England Northeast area. Fans, you're not going to want to miss what we have lined up here today. It's a match made in heaven with Burt Randolph Sugar and Captain Lou Albano. A complete idiot's guide, no offense, to pro wrestling. Now, fans, if you've been following Chaos Corner here on the YouTube channel, the mothership, if you will, you'll see that there's almost 2,000 videos uploaded to the station. Everything from AEW to the WWE to MLW, NWA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, Impact, and my home at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. It doesn't get any better than that. What you will find here is one man, unique, unedited, unscripted. Nobody else does the concept here in the IWC. And as I say for every opening broadcast here on the opening monologue, follow me on all social media platforms. Here on Guardian of Chaos on the YouTube channel. Just punch it in on your laptop or your mobile device. Of course, in real time on Twitter at Big Daddy G.O.C. And the G.O.C. stands for the Guardian of Chaos. On Instagram, it's the Guardian of Chaos. On Facebook, there's two accounts. That's right, there's two. Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian and Jay Brony. That's right, Jay Brony. Follow me on Gitter, Gab, Truth Social. I follow it all in the IWC and even on Rumble. Fans, you're not going to want to miss what I have in store for you today. As I've said before, you see that we're down here in the bunker for the last several episodes. We have a new music set up. Our old friend, Alexa. You see that we've changed some of the camera angles and the lighting. It's great to be back here and on the airwaves. So before we get started, Alexa, lower the volume. I don't think she's kayfabing me right now. What the heck's going on here at Chaos Corner? Alexa, lower the volume. How good is that? Fans, we have a little, here on St. Patrick's Day, we're having a little espresso this morning. So if I got a little pep in my step, a little extra kick, well, that's why, man. Everybody stay safe out there. Stay close to your family and friends and your loved ones. Every day is not a guarantee, but every day is a blessing. One day at a time, sweet Jesus. One day at a time. Let me not get carried away. I got to take another sip. We're going to the School of Hard Knocks here on Chaos Corner. Stand by. Don't go anywhere. Grab a beverage. Grab your breakfast. Grab a coffee. It's early in the morning here on Friday. And we are in the spirit of the Lord here at Chaos Corner. Pro wrestling, man. Listen, pro wrestling, baseball, and sweet Jesus. So fans, what I have, you know that I have covered a match made in heaven by Burt Randolph Sugar and Captain Lou Albano. As I said, a complete idiot's guide. Again, no offense. I know I'm repeating here. That's what I do. If you look at all the videos here on the channel, we have been covering a complete idiot's guide, which dates back well over 2 decades ago, and it still pertains to today's business and industry of sports entertainment and pro wrestling. Remember this, fans. You cannot get to where you're going or even where you are unless you recognize and remember where you've been. Now, don't get me wrong. Look in the rearview mirror, but keep your eye in the windshield because it's full speed ahead. Let's roll. We know that the world of professional wrestling has really changed over the years. Hey, listen, over 50 years as a fan, a smark, an insider, a scout, an agent, a mark. Yeah, that's right. I said it, a mark. And I'm proud of that. And my over 3 decades of experience in the pro wrestling industry as a pro wrestling manager, two-time Hall of Famer, class of 2019 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and class of 2020 at my home at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. That's what you get here, a different view. I bring you into my world, whether it's in the lounge of the Chaos Corner, the executive boardroom, here at the offices, in the gym, or down here in the bunker. I give you reality. I give you the truth. I give you my take, my personal viewpoints from someone who's been in the business from pillar to post, coast to coast, and border to border, in every aspect, from sweeping floors, setting up ring, to taking bumps in the ring. That's what you get here on Chaos Corner. So just to complete my opening monologue and greet everyone to being here at Chaos Corner, I greatly appreciate it in this day and age, here in 2023, March of 2023. Some people say today's Christmas, St. Patrick's. I don't know. What calendar are you following on? I don't want to get into all this stuff. That's for another story for another time. I'm here, as I said, to be your stress reliever and for me to get my stress relief. This is my love. This is my passion. And you can see that as the old man brand, the over 50 demo god, with your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy. We are going to Chapter 18, The School of Hard Knocks. Now, if you could put up with my linguistic skills here, I'm going to read to you from the book of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Pro Wrestling. As I said, I feel like I could have written this book. I've lent it out well over 50, 100 times. I've probably read it 50 times myself. And again, go back on the channel. Look at all the live reviews. Look at all the history. Look at all the live-to-tape watch-alongs and covering the current industry, all the way back to the history on the Guardian of Chaos channel, where I cover everything from the old school to current day. And, of course, the many chapters that I've already done here in the book reviews, everyone from Bobby Heenan on down to Bruno Sammartino and to the book here, The Complete Idiot's Guide. So you're going to find this interesting. You're going to learn something here on Chaos Corner, as you always do. School is in session. Again, and here we're going to go to different sidebars. We'll get advice from Burt Randolph Sugar, Captain Lou Albano, one of my personal influences, and had a chance to meet Lou and damn near had a chance to be Captain Lou Albano Jr. at one time, as other people claim. Captain Lou and I personally spoke about that, but that's neither here nor there. Rest in peace, Captain Lou, one of the biggest influences in my character as the Guardian of Chaos. So in this chapter, breaking into wrestling and the wrestling schools, choosing a good wrestling school, requirements for enrollment, surviving day-to-day training, from student to pro, breaking into pro wrestling. Now, fans, you know I'm currently involved with Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling and the Paradise 4, who have a training facility at 662 Co Avenue in East Haven, Connecticut, in the shadows of Titan Towers. The head trainer, Pretty Paul Roma, former Four Horsemen, Power and Glory, Pretty Wonderful, Young Stallions. Also co-trainer and owner of Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, Mario Mancini, in the WWF from 84 to 92. And the debut match from everybody from Demolition to the Hart Foundation to The Undertaker. That's right, Mario Mancini, owner of Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling and one of the trainers along with Pretty Paul Roma. And second-generation grappler, Mr. Paul Perez, in the WWF from, say, 1988 to 1992. Also co-trainer at PAPW along with Big Steve Tracy, the 6'6", 380-pounder at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. That's what you get at PAPW. 4 men that trained under the guidance of the WWF and worked for Vincent Kennedy McMahon and WCW and Ted Turner in Paul Roma's case. So there's an example of an unbelievable training facility that I am personally involved with. And then, of course, the organization, Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. Go to all social media platforms and type in Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, and you'll see not only a training facility, top notch. The facility's even got a WWF ring inside the facility. They also, and we also, throw on monthly events and monthly shows, sometimes 2 or 3 times a month. Everything from alley fights to the house shows, to the big events at PAPW that have been on Fight TV, and the stars that have already come out of Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling in its existence since 2015. MLW superstar, former Caribbean heavyweight champion, the most marketable man in pro wrestling, the earpod god, the sole proprietor, Richard Holiday, from the Dynasty, along with Hammerstone and MJF, came out of Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. And the stars right now on the rise in PAPW. Everybody from Dustin Flash Waller to Kylon King to The Haven to beautiful Greg Baylor to the Battle Academy with Jake Lynn, Lorenzo Vendetta, Hunter Tarka, Skylar Gray, and of course the PAPW heavyweight champion Chris Battle. I can go on and on with the young superstars and the veterans in PAPW, such as the Pyramids of Power, Collusion, Bull Dread, Lou Jacobs, Lucas Chase as seen on AEW. The list goes on and on of the stars at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. So that's why this show is more important than any other that I've done here on the channel. The School of Hard Knocks. And there's many training facilities out there. I first went to professional wrestling school in 1984 at the legendary Quest facility under the guidance of Tough Tony Altamori. There at the time was my good friend and former podcast partner from the Mario and Chaos show, would be one Mario Mancini, who I previously mentioned, the owner of PAPW. He was one of the first guys I encountered that trained me, and they whipped my ass from pillar to post. I gotta admit, even as a young 20-year-old man at the time in great shape, going to an institute of higher learning, thought I knew everything, had some injuries, didn't divulge it back then, but it's come out since. I couldn't hack it. I couldn't make it. I couldn't cut the mustard back then in '84. But that was a real training facility, the Quest facility, and the guys that came out of there. And that's why the School of Hard Knocks and what I'm going to talk about here is so important. There's other schools. There's other great schools out there. Even here in the Constitution State, what a joke that is. Here in the shadows of Titan Towers, not only Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling with Paul Roma and Mario Mancini, there's also Slick Wagner Brown and Test of Strength. Here in the Constitution State, the Nutmeg State, if you will. There's also the 3D Academy with Bully Ray here in the state of Connecticut. In the shadows of Titan Towers, as I already said, we are located in the hub, the hotbed of pro wrestling here in this area. The history, the rich tradition, and the stars they continue to produce. So just to mention, hey, listen, there's other great schools in this area. You also have to look at the school up in Massachusetts, the old Killer Kowalski school with all the veterans. Shut Up and Wrestle with Kevin Landry, former star from the WWF. The Monster Factory in Jersey, Damian Adams, an unbelievable facility. There's a lot of facilities here. Beyond Wrestling also has one up in Massachusetts. You won't find more than you get here in the greater New England, Northeast, tri-state area. I've said it before, in the shadows of Titan Towers. Listen, there's a difference as we talk about history in the School of Hard Knocks and training facilities. The Northeast, traditionally back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s, known for big arenas, big venues, different style of wrestling than the intimate style of Southern pro wrestling like Georgia and Florida and Mid-South. Back in the day in the smaller TV studios and smaller venues and arenas that held 5,000 or 6,000 as compared to up here, 20, 25,000 seat venues. So you can see the tradition, and if you know your history of how the different styles and areas and territories worked, and even to training facilities, you can see the difference. Whether it's down at the Nightmare Factory with Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall, and there's several schools in the Sunshine State of Florida, even the Boogie Woogie Man School, Handsome Jimmy Valiant down there in Virginia. All different styles and different schools, but get yourself to somebody reputable. Get yourselves to somebody that's been in the business. Get yourselves to somebody that has credentials, that's committed. There's a lot of hucksters and shysters and scumbags out there, and I'm going to tell it like it is because that's what I do here on this show. So I wanted to relate to you what we're going to do here. This could be 45 minutes, an hour. I may cut this up into 2 parts, 3 parts. If you're here for the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, 20 minutes, it doesn't really matter, because whether it's 1 people, 1,000, or 1 million, I'm still going to do what I have to do to put out the content for you, the fans. We want to get to the live subscribers and watch hours so I can come to you live. I'm not asking for money. I'm not behind a paywall or Patreon or Super Chats or PayPal or Venmo or asking you guys for anything. I'm here regardless. That's why I don't have to have all the graphics and sounds and editing. And I'm going to give you raw dog, man. What you see, make it relatable, make it understandable, as opposed to living in an imaginary world and imaginary chat rooms and all the different stuff that's going on there with the geeks and goons and dweebs and nerds out there in the IWC. Not all of you, but you know who I'm talking about out there. Everybody's a snowflake. Everybody gets offended. You can jest and joke about this one or that one or about certain people, but then not other people. Either the same rule applies to everybody or applies to nobody. No one's going to censor me and tell me what to do and tell me how I can react to something and not play it as a joke. We've all become that crazy. So that's why the G.O.C. sticks to his own channel. And everybody else, you could scratch my ass. How about that? And you know I'm a moderator for several different channels here on the IWC. So we'll see what happens in the future out there with everybody who gets so offended. And I don't like to cuss, and I don't have to cuss, but I do it here on the channel. I'll have to put money in the tip jar later for my granddaughter. But I got to be honest with you fans out there. You can't take a joke. You can't say anything. You can't joke around. It's only the way you want it. It's a one-way street. That's not the way it works in my world. With over 25 years behind the walls, you see my reputation. Read the Mitt. Go back and look at what I've done in my history before you step to me with all your left-wing BS, and I don't want to make this show about that because I'm not here, and I bitch and complain about it, whether it's Cornette or anybody else that I listen to, Don Tony, JD from Off the Script. When you start bringing in politics to sports and everything else, entertainment like that, I'll walk away. So I'm going to zip it, zip it, don't say nothing. Throw away the key on that subject. So with that being said, anyone who gets offended, fuck off and you can change the channel. The School of Hard Knocks here on Chaos Corner. I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So bear with me, okay? I already told you what's in this chapter, what we need to learn. It's several pages. And again, this dates back, let's go back to the future. This dates back well over 20 years ago, but still applies to this day. In order to get respect, you have to start with respecting yourself. Once you do that, you open up other people's minds to respecting you. Alexa, higher the volume. You've heard the old saying about gaining life experience. I learned it in the School of Hard Knocks, and everybody uses that phrase. But some people actually know it and live it and have been through it. For most people, that's just a figure of speech. But for pro wrestlers, it's literally true. Like any other field, professional wrestling's future depends upon its continual influx of talent, especially now that it's exploded into the fastest growing field in all of sports entertainment here in 2023, as I said, how this applies from decades ago. As Pretty Boy Larry Sharp, owner of the School of the Monster Factory, which I previously mentioned, puts it, wrestling needs all the monsters we can get. And boy, I'll tell you, it doesn't apply to this day, and no disrespect. Talking about current times, 4 guys in AEW, MJF, the World Heavyweight Champion, with Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and the 4th guy, Jungle Boy Jack Perry. 4 guys going for the AEW heavyweight title. Speaking of monsters, we need monsters, the Monster Factory. All under 200 pounds, except MJF, who probably weighs in at about 225, is in great shape. Nothing against the lightweights, the cruiserweights, lucha libre. I love all that stuff as a historian and a fan of over 5 decades, as I've said. Put it in class weights. Put it in certain separate things. But when you go for a heavyweight title, and everybody's under 200 pounds, it doesn't work for me. Just like the whole intergender men against women. I don't believe it. I don't support it. Whether it's scripted, choreographed, a theater, a play, whatever you want to call it, it's still promoting violence against women, and it doesn't sell for me. Not that women aren't great athletes. I'm a big advocate for women's sports and a supporter of that. And that's why people have gotten offended when I've spoken out and said certain things that men shouldn't, transgender shouldn't compete in opposite sports when you're biologically born the way you were. But that's another story for another time, and a fact that people can't have an open discussion about and be realistic and honest about it. Live and let live. I get it. But those are the things that coming from my personal viewpoint. And again, if you don't like it, change the fucking channel. So back to what I was talking about. That's why it doesn't work for me. Under 200 pounds, you're going for a heavyweight title. Break it up into classes, make it more relatable. Do better with your booking, your storytelling, your emotional investment, your psychology. That's just a personal viewpoint. Over the years, wrestling has conscripted its recruits from other fields of athletics. We know that, especially now in 2023. And again, remember when this was written, foreseeing the future. That's exactly what this is. Football, amateur wrestling, even weightlifting. Those who have crossed over to join its ranks include former football players like Bronco Nagurski, Leo Nominelli, Alex Karras, and yes, Bill Goldberg, and of course all the stars of today. Former amateur wrestlers include Vern Gagne, Danny Hodge, Terry Funk, and Ric Flair. Ken Patera came in from a former career as a weightlifter. But wrestling still needs many, many more wide bodies to fill its ever-expanding ranks. Let that marinate sink in to current day stars like Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, not so current. So what does it take to become a professional wrestler? And where and how does one enlist? This chapter will look into the schools where champions are made and training regimen you must go through to become the next Goldberg. Remember, this was written well over 2 decades ago, and we all know what's happened with Goldberg since. And he certainly wasn't the best worker, but you couldn't deny him putting asses in seats and what he did at his time and how they booked him. You can't deny that. Let's go to Captain Lou's corner. Breaking into wrestling is hard. Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. I had help when I was breaking in, and over the years I've helped others, like when I recommended Terry Bollea, the Hulk, Jack Armstrong, and the JYD Junkyard Dog, and a list of the recommendations of school operators like Afa of the Wild Samoans and the legendary Wild Samoan Training Academy. Speaking of unbelievable schools. So make yourself known to those who can help you. Captain Lou's Corner, here on Chaos Corner. Training in the early days. Back in the days of old pro wrestling, reached out and took anyone and everyone it could find to fill its talent pool. Willing plowboys, farmers, rodeo riders, anyone at all. Most hailed from the Midwest and came from European stock. Men like Iowan Frank Gotch, Strangler Lewis from the back roads of Wisconsin, and Lou Thez from the ethnic neighborhood athletic clubs of St. Louis. Wherever they came from, most of these early pro wrestlers were skilled in the disciplines of Greco-Roman wrestling. Some, like Dr. B.F. Roller, were even amateur champions, and all received their schooling in pro wrestling's world through on-the-job training, learning while earning, if you will, a la a lot of the athletes over the last 2 decades. Before this book was after this book was written, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, Shelton Benjamin, the list goes on and on. Dan Gable or Shorty G, whatever they call him, and there's plenty more that I'm missing that have those athletic backgrounds. Oh, stand by, fans. We're only 25 minutes in. I'll probably break this up into 2 parts. The School of Hard Knocks. Don't go anywhere. Let's take a quick minute here. I gotta hop up on the espresso, man. It's early. I got back from campus before 8 a.m. All right, fans, back to the School of Hard Knocks here on Chaos Corner. Thanks for being here. The college football connection. Again, well documented. Bill Goldberg. We're going to go on and on. Remember the time frame here. Over 25 years ago, and here we are in 2023. It's St. Patrick's Day, man. By the third decade of the 20th century, promoters began scouring the landscape for athletes and naturally turning to the gridiron for their recruits. The first was Wayne Big Munn of Nebraska. In short order, he was joined in the ranks by Gus Sonnenberg of Dartmouth, Jumpin' Joel Savoldi of Notre Dame, Jim McMillan of Illinois, and Herman Hickman of Tennessee. Do your research. Go out and Google it. Fans, understand, DuckDuckGo, whatever you want to use. Do your history. This is basically a pro wrestling history channel as well as Chaos Corner. And of course, related to the stars, and my biggest demographic here on the channel is in that wheelhouse of 18 to 39. You're all here on Chaos Corner, especially in your 20s and 30s. Go back and do your research, and you'll understand who these guys are and relate it to the current athletes in the WWE, AEW, so on and so forth. From gridiron to wrestling ring, Herman Hickman will do a quick backstory. For those too young to remember, Herman Hickman was one of the greatest linemen of the history of Southern football, playing at my own alma mater, the University of Tennessee, the Volunteers State. He even played for my old coach, General Bob Nyland. Now remember, this is Burt Randolph Sugar talking. The New York Sun described him as being able to demolish one side of an enemy line single-handedly with Samson-like strength. Surprisingly nimble for his weight. After graduation in 1931, yep, I'm going back that far because none of you know anything about fucking history in today's day and age, Hickman turned to pro wrestling. His mentors were Toots Mott and Rudy Dusek, who was, as Herman put it, taught me how to work and how to put on a performance. They showed me how to take a fall without getting hurt, how to go with a wrist lock without getting a dislocated shoulder, how to slam an opponent without injuring them. You know, that was back in the early 30s and ain't much changed since. Whether it was when this was written or now in 2023. Amateur wrestlers, weightlifters, boxers, everybody's welcome. Another pool of talent were the collegiate amateur wrestlers. Vern Gagne won 4 Big Ten wrestling championships at the University of Minnesota before joining the world of pro wrestling. Jack Briscoe won the NCAA wrestling title in the 191-pound weight class when he wrestled for Oklahoma State. Bob Backlund captured the NCAA Division II title at North Dakota State, and Alan Bad News Coage won a bronze medal in judo at the 1976 Olympics. Weightlifter Ken Patera, who represented the United States at the 1972 Olympic Games, crossed over to wrestling too. So did a few boxers, like Arnold Skolin. After the Golden Boy temporarily paralyzed his left arm, his trainer asked, "Do you have any dramatic talents? Why not try wrestling?" Similarly, Classy Freddie Blassie was boxing in a Golden Gloves tournament at the age of 16 when he was spotted by Jack Dempsey. "You've got a punch like a Missouri mule," said Dempsey. "Only your arms are too short. I'll get onto that in a minute. "The pros will murder you. You like to wrestle? So wrestle." And you notice a couple botches, stumbles right there. You know what Bully Ray said to me, I don't know, back in like 2006? Somewhere thereabouts, when we were going for the NWA World Tag Team titles, where I was managing the Outcast Killers, Omar Tortuga and Diablo Santiago, against Bully Ray, then Bubba, and Devon Team 3D, in tables matches. Busted Open radio host, 2-time Hall of Famer, perhaps the greatest tag team wrestler of all time, Bully Ray. He said to the G.O.C. Big Daddy, back in the dressing room, it's well documented, I say it on every episode, "Give the Guardian of Chaos 5 spots and he'll fuck up for him." I consider that to be a compliment coming from Bully. Very knowledgeable, one of the most knowledgeable men in the business today, in my opinion, along with Jim Cornette. And I don't agree with that asshole, corny in a lot of different ways, but you got to respect his knowledge and history of the business. There's not too many like Jim Cornette, whether you like him or don't like him. That's just my opinion. Let's go to Body Slam. Check out any wrestling school you're considered for their credentials. I've already said that talking about PAPW. Find out who their trainers are, their history and experience. Get a list of graduates. Make sure to do this before you write that check for tuition. I couldn't agree with that more. Trust me when I tell you. Captain Lou's story. My experience was a lot like Blassie's and Scullin's. After I'd gotten out of the service, I went to Willie Gilzenberg, who handled 2-ton Tony Galanto and Red Cochran, and I told him I wanted to be a boxer. Gilzenberg said I was too short and suggested I try a wrestling as a career move. Not incidentally, Gilzenberg was also a part of the World Wrestling Federation. Fans, use your head. You should have thought about that and been atop of that to begin with. He arranged for me to train one-on-one with Soldier Barry and Arnold Skolin. That's how I got into wrestling. Quote, Captain Lou Albano. Lots of others were discovered from outside the world of wrestling too. Take Terry Bollea, the Hulk. You know him better as the Hulkster Hulk Hogan or Hollywood Hogan. He was playing bass guitar with a Tampa-based rock band when Jack Briscoe, who ran wrestling shows in the area, come on fans, discovered him. Bill Goldberg was on the injured reserve list on the Atlanta Falcons while he recovered from a painful pelvic injury. He happened to be hanging out in Atlanta sports bar, standing next to bang, DDP Diamond Dallas Page. Page suggested he try his hand at wrestling. And the list goes on and on and on. You fans get it right here on Chaos Corner. The School of Hard Knocks. A match made in heaven. Burt Randolph Sugar, Captain Lou Albano, and your old buddy, the G.O.C. And there are the legacy wrestlers born to the black and blue, like Kerry and Kevin Von Erich, sons of the fabled Fritz Von Erich, and of course now Marshall and Ross Von Erich. Came to the sport through wrestling school. Bret Hart, whose father was all-time great, as we know, Stu Hart. Not to mention Dustin Rhodes, formerly Gold Dust, and of course now the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, son of the legendary American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Who can forget, and of course, especially now in 2023, the Bloodline and the Samoan Dynasty. Everyone from the Paramount High Chief Peter Maivia to the current head of the table, Roman Reigns. And of course, the legendary Afa and Sika. And you know my history with the Samoan Dynasty. Everyone from Rikishi to Umaga to Yokozuna to L.A. Smooth and the Tonga Kid. Pehiaoi Melihini, Kane, Pupule, Wikiliki, Mahalo, and aloha from your buddy. So you guys get it when it comes to the bloodline and bloodborne, and there's many other examples here. From the Hennings on down, I can go on forever and ever. Do you got what it takes? Getting discovered is one way to get into wrestling, but most of today's wrestlers, and yesterday's for that matter, came to the sport through a wrestling school, and there's no better way to go. Really. Pass through the portals of what can be called Cauliflower State University. Let's go to a quick sidebar here at WrestleMania. We're 35 minutes in here on Chaos Corner, School of Hard Knocks. Taking a fall correctly, or a bump, isn't easy to learn. I can attest to that, Mario, you son of a bitch. Witness the International Boxing Federation's middleweight champion match between Bernard Hopkins and Robert Allen in August of 1998. The two opponents were in a clinch when the ref, Miles Lane, tried to break them up. He inadvertently shoved Hopkins, whose momentum carried him through the ropes and onto the floor below. Hopkins fell heavily, injured his ankle, and was unable to continue. I saw it live after the fight. Hopkins himself said, if I was a wrestler, I'd know how to fall, but I'm a boxer, so I don't. Let that sink in when you choose a wrestling school and you think you can do this like everyone thinks they can do it now. So you want to be a wrestler? Well, let me tell you, it ain't for wimps. I can attest to that. You've got to have an athletic ability, some skills, and above all else, you've got to be in good shape. Not that you have to be built like a brick skyscraper. I say that a lot about today's wrestlers and the look and how you present yourself and what you're doing in the ring, looking the part, being the part, living the part. There's a lot to be said for that back in the day compared to 2023 with the way people come out with their ring gear, their ring garb, and everything else in between. And I'm not bitching and I'm not bitter. I'm telling it like it is because that's what I do. But you do have to be in reasonably good condition. Otherwise, the school might turn you down. After all, they don't want someone who will look like they'll get into their rowing machines and sink them. Several schools will give you a look-see, a session of rope work, calisthenics, and workouts to find out if you're good enough and in good enough shape to take on the intense program of wherever you happen to go. They want to know if you can handle their hard time. If you've got the ability and agility to see it through without jeopardizing yourself or your health. Again, fans, use your noggin on this one. So if you're really, really serious about pursuing a career in professional wrestling, and if you're in good shape, you'll want to contact a wrestling school. That's the first step on the ladder to becoming a professional wrestler. So before I get on to a list of schools from back then, and I'll even include some now, especially PAPW, and then we get on to the remaining information here in the School of Hard Knocks, I want you fans to take a quick break. I'll be right back for part 2 of School of Hard Knocks here on Chaos Corner with the G.O.C. Your old buddy. You're not going to learn a lot of this anywhere else unless you plunk down your money and actually walk into a wrestling school more than you will here on Chaos Corner. So I'll say that to say this. Don't go anywhere. Come back for part 2. You're not going to want to miss this one.